If you want to know the top 3 shoulder drills that any client could benefit from, watch this video. The shoulders are probably one of the most common areas of issue and injury, maybe for you or for your clients, even more so than low backs. And so as I show you these 3, I want you to know the first exercise we're going to do right now is more about mobility in the area. The second exercise is more about activation of the muscles deep into the shoulder. And the third one is a strengthening exercise that's going to help solidify it all together. But the first piece here, we talk about the shoulder drill, but you can't separate the thoracic spine, the scapula, and what we call the glenohumeral joint, right? They all work together in most of our pushing and pulling exercises. And so the first one that I want to show you guys is a combination. It's actually thoracic spine mobility as well as some good mobility for the chest and the shoulder. And this is the open the book. There are a lot of versions of this. Some people might call this a can opener. I'm going to show you guys my first version I like to start with, because it's a great starting point. And you guys can see what I'm gonna do here. I can always set up a little pillow here for the head, is I'm gonna have those knees from my hips about 90 degrees here. And then what I wanna do is I wanna use my bottom hand to trap this down. This is gonna make sure that my lumbar spine, my hips, they stay where they are while I reach across to get a little bit of protraction in the shoulder. And then exhale, trying to reach back to the ground. And what you'll find for most people as I reach and then nice good deep exhale is if I'm not hitting the ground on the first one, you might find by the 4th or 5th one that I'm getting a little bit more range of motion. So if I'm doing an upper body day, pushing and pulling day, like I said, these 3 drills are for anyone. Whether you've got shoulder and back issues or not, this is not only gonna feel great, but it's likely to start to open up that T-spine so you can get in good positions. And then this is kind of a cheat because you kind of have 2 exercises baked in here. So the first part is reach across. The other part is see if you can keep those fingertips on the ground, reaching all the way around. And this one you'll start to feel a little bit more shoulder mobility, because if you're limited here, it might be because of the lats or the pecs that attach up into that arm, but doing about 3 to 5 reps can be a really great way to start any of your guys' upper body workouts. Your second exercise is a banded pull apart. And you guys can see here, I have a very light resistance band. And when it comes to some really good shoulder mobility and strengthening exercises for this whole complex, finding yourself a very light super band, loop band, whatever you want to call it, is going to be your friend. You want it to be light enough that you can go through good range of motion, but still have a little bit of tension. So that's what we're gonna do here. And there are a number of ways of doing this. I'm gonna give you guys the simplest version to coach you through, and that is go really wide on the band. As wide as you need to go in order to maintain straight arms and what looks like good control. You're gonna know that you're too close together and you have too much tension, and people will do this because they think more is better, when they get here and then it flies back like that. That's not the mobility we're looking for. So loosen that out, and nice and light, trying to go where if you're looking at the shoulder blade, guys, I'm starting here down in front and you see a little bit of like protraction and then retraction as I come back together. And the last piece I want to point out on this too, is the reason this is so good is not only are we getting some mobility in the pecs, you'll feel that if you happen to be tight in the chest, but also if you look at the thumbs, you want to point down with the thumbs when you're coming in front for internal rotation of the shoulder, right? That's a little bit of rotator cuff. And then rolling back for that external rotation. And if I'm you guys, I'm throwing this into my warm-up, I'm doing somewhere between 10 to 15 repetitions just to get that joint moving and the muscles that attach to it a little bit more mobile before my next exercise. Your third shoulder drill that literally could be done with any client and probably should be done with every client is gonna be some version of the cable face pull. I like the cables because now we're starting to get more strength in this area as well, right? It also helps us really address not just the muscles of the upper back, our rear deltoids, but especially mid to lower traps if we're doing it with good form. Right now I'm down on a kneeling position because I like to have a little differential where the cable is coming from a higher position. I find for a lot of people that just helps make sure that our shoulders end up in a good position. I have 2 tricep ropes because I just like to have more length so I can go further apart, but this very well could be done with just 1. You might not have access to 2. It's very hard to find 2 that are even the same length in the gym, but if you do, it is definitely my favorite. Gives you a little bit better feel. The last piece I'll say, because this is very common, you can do these face pulls with this hand position or this hand position, all right? There may be some slight differences in the muscles and how it feels, but I honestly just find whatever's most comfortable for you, because if it's more comfortable, you're more likely to do it. So for me, I'm gonna do it with the overhand position. And the key on this one is I'm not, especially if I'm using this as like, let's say earlier on, just trying to get these muscles fired up in my workout or an accessory movement, I wanna make sure I groove my form first, don't go too heavy. Over time, it is a great one to push with strength, but I just wanna think like I'm pulling my thumbs right in line with my ears, all right? So you'll find that this one is gonna be, it's not gonna feel like a lat exercise, but you should feel it more in your rear delts. And the other key here too, keep your chin tucked. That's gonna keep your neck out of it as much. So pulling back, try to keep the thumbs coming right above or around my ears, and the elbows are relatively high, right? You'll see a lot of people do these with different technique and form, but I find that this, especially if the weight is right, allows us to get that slightly above the shoulder, but we're not cramping the shoulders up with our shoulders there as well, right? Do it on either side. Boom. If I'm doing this 12 to 15 reps with a little isometric pause to make sure we're bulletproofing those shoulders. Steal these 3 shoulder drills, put them into your routine or a client's routine once or even twice a week, and I promise your shoulders are gonna get moving better.